have one from Stacy O'Neill tonight. She's going to help take some of that stress away from homework because students don't like it, we don't like it. So I'm going to turn it over to her. She's a specialist in executive functioning, and she's going to share some secrets.
Yes, thank you. All right.
And thank you for doing this.
What's that?
Thank you for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I love to share my knowledge and my past experience with this. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So, first of all, I was a teacher for 15 years. And I feel that I was almost meant to go into teaching, and especially to be a middle school teacher, because I was such a disaster in middle school. It's almost like some strange punishment that I had to go into teaching middle school. I am the fourth of 4 girls, and my sisters are all, my sisters are 8, 10, and 13 years older than me, so I was really left to my own devices. Like, when I was growing up, my mom, there were teenagers in the house. I mean, I was left to just do whatever. It's crazy now that I think about how much my parents weren't very active in my schooling at all. And maybe that was like being, in the 70s or 80s, but I just think it was like they were tired. And nobody ever checked to see, if I had homework, and nobody said, oh, you have a paper due. Like, I did everything on my own, and I did it really poorly. Really poorly. Like, I would stay up all night, and then I would pretend I was sick, and I would go and I would say, like, Mom, I'm not feeling well, and she would just say, go back to bed. I mean, I have 2 children. I have a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. Like, they have to have a temperature and thrown up for me to let them miss school. But so there was just a lot of, like, go back to bed. I sort of raised myself, at least in the school part. I mean, I would start my science fair project the night before, the morning of, and it did poorly, and there was a lot of panicking. There was a lot of, like, I didn't feel well because, I didn't have enough time to study, and I left middle school on academic probation. I went to a private girls' school in Cleveland, Ohio, but I have to say that I left high school on academic honor roll. So it does start to click. A lot of this has to do with the executive function part of your brain, that prefrontal cortex. It does grow. It matures, and it finally matures by 25. That whole prefrontal cortex. And I'll say I have 6 nephews and nieces, and there's a lot of ADD in our family. I was never diagnosed with ADD, but probably was, because I was very distractible and all of that. 4 of my 6 nephews and nieces were diagnosed with ADD, and 3 of the boys finally have gotten it together at 23, 24 years old. Not to scare anybody. However, it's amazing, like, what happens when that finally, when you finally mature. I mean, one of my nephews dropped out of college, just really couldn't get it together, wasn't doing well, and at 24 years old decided he wanted to go back to school, get his master's in forestry. Right now he's working for, like, the forestry department in California. I mean, studying wildfires. I mean, it's really incredible what he's doing, and it clicked for him at a later age. So I see that a lot. I see parents panicking, and my kids can't, pull it together. But a lot of what we ask our kids we ask too much of these kids, especially when the prefrontal cortex hasn't fully developed. We almost ask them to manage their workload and sports, and, especially like being an awkward teenager. That's a whole other part that people don't think about. We ask them to manage this, as if they had a fully developed brain, and they don't. So part of what I'm here to tell you is that there are tricks and things that I can do to help, that we as parents can do to help them not be in such a panic, but also they are continuing to grow and mature, and that just because they're a disaster in 6th grade doesn't mean that they're going to be a disaster for the rest of their lives. mean, I'm an example, and my sister's kids are and I see it all the time, and, you know, especially like, I taught first grade. I mean, I have kids that I just never thought, they were so difficult in first grade and then in sixth grade, and now they're, you know, they're out of college and they're doing beautifully. I mean, I'm aging myself, but, you know, a lot of my students that I taught are out of college now, and they're all, everybody is able to find their path and go on. And sometimes the more parent involvement is counterproductive, because we are on top of them, and then I really don't like for there to be that battle with parents. If you can source it out somehow, and maybe have like a college kid do a little bit of tutoring with them. I mean, I'll kind of go through all of this, but I do think that the battling with the parents over homework is something that's not really helpful for anybody. I think that the kids end up resenting the parents. Sometimes I wonder if the kids are purposely not doing their work because their parents are so on top of it. So I have some suggestions of what can help. So I guess the first part that, you know, I was a disaster growing up, and I do understand kids, because a lot of the kids that I work with, I'll say, like, I was exactly like that. And, you know, you don't need to always be in this like panicky position and making things so difficult on yourself. Like, I was like that, and I lived through it. Now, it's possible that because I lived through it and because I made all of these mistakes that I learned, because a lot of people, you know, say like, well, we have to, you know, kids need to make their own mistakes. But at the same time, there's a lot of pressure in Fairfield County. We don't want the kids to completely be, you know, on their own the way that my parents let me be on our own. But there are some ways. So, something that I learned that's been really helpful for students is, well, the idea, especially for kids that have ADD, or anybody, but especially kids that are kind of scattered, there's this whole like out of sight, out of mind idea. So, you know, if they're not reminded that they have a paper due on Friday in 2 weeks, they kind of forget that there's a paper due on Friday in 2 weeks. And then maybe, you know, they'll look at their calendar and it'll say the night before that there's a paper due, but they get into like this panic. So I like to make sure that all of their assignments are broken up into smaller pieces. Does that make sense? So I really like to use a big paper calendar, and for kids to look and see everything that they have to do. So this is just from Staples. It's big enough. It's got about 9 lines on it, if you can see it. I find this to be a decent calendar. I've tried tons of calendars. I've been doing this for 6 years already. And first I used this like large 3-foot by 4-foot whiteboard calendar. So I thought like, okay, the bigger the better, and they can see everything. But like the whiteboards, you know, they start to smear and it just gets messy, and especially some of the, you know, anytime there's like fine motor issues, I was like, okay, that's not working. Even though I do like the idea of a large calendar, and if you have room in your house, I think for parents to have a large whiteboard calendar so that the kids can see what their schedule is and also what the parents' schedule is, like, that's a great idea. I personally don't have room in my house for a large whiteboard calendar. My house is pretty open, but I have friends that have like large calendars, and it says, you know, everything, what everyone's schedule is, and if kids are able to look at that and see what to expect, it's wonderful. Not everybody has that luxury, so a calendar like this is great. I like for kids and adults to see a month ahead. I work with a lot of adults also, and I've noticed that women, or, you know, moms have said to me, like, I used to be really organized and I don't know what happened. Like back when I was younger, and even in college, or when I first started, you know, with my kids or whatever, that like, I used to be more organized and I don't know what happened. And I've said like, well, did you switch over to the calendar on your phone? And they'll say yes. I'm like, did you used to use a paper calendar? And usually they said that they did. So the phone calendar really only shows you a day at a time. Like maybe it'll, you know, maybe you could put in, you know, that in 3 weeks you have a test coming up, but you don't know that until that day comes up. And that has been a big problem for kids also. They'll put stuff on their phone, and like, I do like the idea of a phone calendar. Like, I use my calendar all the time, and I have alerts, and I make sure that I know what's going on. But like, really, you need to see like the month and at a time. You need to see a week at a time. Kids really need to see what's going on for them to manage like their schoolwork and their after school and all of that stuff. So I really like to start at the beginning of the month. I would work with the kids. Like mom or dad can sit down on a Sunday night and fill out the calendar and fill everything out, like their after school, like everything. It's gonna take like 10, 15 minutes to fill it all out for the month, but then it's filled out. You're gonna put other things in like every week, but to start off, write down like they have soccer on Tuesdays and Thursdays, if they have basketball, if they have like religious school on Sundays, if they have games. And the process of actually filling out the calendar for you and for your kids is going to be super helpful, because you'll start to realize like, oh, we have a game away on Sunday, but my parents are going to be in town. So like, it's really helpful for you to fill it out with them, and then for the parents to model like, wow, that's going to be kind of tricky. I don't know how we're going to be able to manage that. Like, just modeling that time management is helpful. So a big calendar is just, it's almost like helping kids put a puzzle together. And something else you can do is like, while you're filling out the calendar with them, like they'll see, like for example, my son we just got his basketball schedule. He's 12. And on Tuesdays, he has something from 4:30 to 6:30, and then he has basketball from 7 to 8:30. So that's going to be a really crazy day. And like we discussed it, and I've said to him like, look, Tuesdays are going to suck. You're going to get home and be so tired. You're really not going to have a lot of time right when you get home from school. So if anything's due on Wednesday, you're going to have to do it on Monday. Or you're going to have to talk to your teachers if something's due on Wednesday and let them know. So it's all about kind of being aware of what the schedule is like, so that these surprises don't come up. Does that make sense? Like really talking through it. Because when I was growing up, I sort of lived in these like, oh no moments. Like nobody ever talked through things. And I would get home and I would be like, oh my gosh, I have so much homework to do. And I would be up until 11, 12 o'clock at night. And it was terrible. And it just started like a terrible routine. I did it all the time. I'm really good at pulling all-nighters. Not as great as I used to be, but like, that's so helpful for you to help the kids fill out their schedules and then say like, this is going to be a tough day, what can we do? Sometimes letting the teachers know that every Thursday or every Wednesday my kid is booked back to back. Is there any way that we can get the homework ahead of time? Like, teachers are really flexible and really want to help the kids and the parents. Like when I was a teacher for 15 years, anytime a parent said that to me, I was like, no problem. I'll make sure you get the homework ahead of time. I didn't want kids to have that like terrible panicking feeling. But that comes with filling out a calendar like by the month, so that nothing is a surprise. I don't like surprises. And me as a parent also fill out this calendar for myself. I use something small because I said I don't have a lot of wall space, but I use something small. This just sticks on the refrigerator. It's like Martha Stewart makes it, but I fill it out every month. I at least write down, if my husband's going to be out of town, or if we have like a party on Saturday night. I kind of let the kids see what the schedule is like too, so that there's no surprises. And even on their own calendars, I like to make sure, like, if my husband's going to be out of town, so each kid has their own calendar like this. If my husband's going to be out of town, I'll write that down on their calendar, just so that they know what to expect. I find that a lot of kids have anxiety, when kids know what to expect, the anxiety really lessens. So for every little thing, not just school, but for if your parents are going to be out of town or something different is happening, just write that stuff down. Very easy and makes a huge difference. So a calendar like this is really helpful. Does anybody have any questions? So also, something else that's really important is if the kid does have like a test due on Friday that they'll write down, like, that they have like a science test, instead of just writing science test, make sure that there's room at the bottom to write down like study for an hour, study for an hour, study for an hour. Like, even though there's a test on Friday, I like to make sure that I've broken down everything that needs to happen for them to prepare and study for that test, not just test. Does that make sense? So here's another small point. I like for there to be lines on the calendar, and when you fill it out, save the top like 3 or 4 lines for whatever's due at school that day. The middle 3 would be what's going on after school, and then the bottom 3 leave blank, and that's when you have room to write down like, breaking up those bigger projects. Do not write down what the homework is every night. That's just annoying and nobody's going to want to do that. But save room for breaking up larger projects. Does that make sense? So, for writing down the homework, I do like kids to write down what their homework is every night, but I just do it I'll have kids write it down on like an index card when they come home. So that they're aware of what they need to do, not just looking on the computer. I know a lot of kids have I live in Weston, we have that like Power School, like it's all on the computer, but I find that if they don't write it down, that they might forget that something is due. So that's something that we as parents can kind of help them do. It's a little annoying, and you have to kind of see if your kids would be open to you doing that. But like I have some parents that will look at the Schoology or the Power School, sort of figure out what's due, depending on if the teachers, keep up with that. And some teachers have websites. I mean, it gets a little complicated, but that is something you can do to sort of write, like if you're able to say, like, okay, you have math, science, like that's something you could do as a parent and then like show it to the kid. Like, okay, this is what's due tomorrow. Now you can make a plan. Like kids really do need to have ownership of that. I like kids to make a plan, like what are they going to do first, what are they going to do last, and estimate how long they think it's going to take them. So I just like for kids to be mindful of what their work is, like just pausing for a moment before they do it so that they can sort of think, all right, this is going to take 15 minutes, this is going to take 20 minutes, I'm going to do math first, and then I'm going to do science, and then I'm going to do my 20 minutes of reading in bed. That's fine. Also, like, it's okay for them to be studying all over your house. They don't need to be sitting at a desk. Like, a lot of kids have been sitting in desks all day. When they get home, if they want to do their homework in the kitchen, let them. If they want to do their reading in bed, let them. Like, I think you don't need to be so strict about where they're doing their work, as long as everything is put away before they go to bed. That's another thing. Like, I want routines to start to happen. Like, I don't like when I hear that mornings are a battle in people's houses. So at the end of the night, and that's even something you can write down on that homework card, put everything away. So just so that they're aware that this happens, put everything away. I mean, I've gotten so used to saying it, my kids know, like, everything needs to be away and at the door before they go to bed. Because we like to sleep in our house, so like we sleep until the latest possible moment. Like they have like about 20 minutes. I make sure that like they pick out their clothes the night before. We kind of know what they're going to eat for breakfast, and then everything's ready to go. I just hear so many times where there's like a battle in the morning. So the more you can do at night to make the morning easier, just do it. Like, don't save that stuff for the morning. It's just not worth it. Everyone's too tired. And also, you don't want your kids starting off on a bad note. Like, so the easier, like, better better to have a battle at night than they can sleep it off. So, so that's like the whole, like, out of sight, out of mind, write everything down, be mindful of what's going on, help your kids kind of see, I'm not saying to do, but, part of my job and what I'm trying to teach you is it's not your job to do the homework, but it is your job to say, Tuesdays are a really tough day. If you have anything due on Wednesday, it's better for you to do it before you leave for soccer practice. That kind of thing. Like, that's how parents can be helpful, not actually doing it, but showing them how to manage their time. And also, like, I have certain kids that, like, I've worked with parents that, Sunday night, the Sunday night blues. Nobody wants to go to school on Monday, and, like, that's so difficult. So I've just switched it up and said, like, why don't you go with your kids to Starbucks on Saturday morning? They can have coffee, they can have a hot chocolate, you can have a coffee, sit with them while they do their homework, and then, like, take that whole Sunday night horribleness out of the equation. Just, like, move it. Like, you have the chance to kind of to manipulate your kids' schedules. Like, if you don't like that, like, nobody likes Sunday night. So, like, make on Saturday morning, like, the time where they have to do their homework. So, that kind of thing. I really, I've seen since I've been living in Fairfield County for 12 years now, like, there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of anxiety. So, the more we can do to take away that anxiety by helping them break up their time, the better. So, so that's sort of the paper calendar thing, and I'm going to take questions at the end. I'm not going to talk too much. I always find parent questions so much more interesting and helpful for everybody. So every paper needs a home. That's the second part of, like, my whole philosophy. I think that, especially for kids with attentional issues, like sometimes they forget to hand in their homework, or their book bags are just a disaster, and a lot of times it's actually was in the book bag, they just didn't know, they weren't able to give it to their teacher. It's like mysteriously disappears. Has that happened? It's crazy. So I personally think that the schools are in some weird cahoots with, like, Staples, because all the teachers say that the kids need to have, like, a binder for each class, and that, like, the binders need to be divided up into all these different sections, and, like, then the teachers only give the kids, like, 3 seconds to, like, write down their homework and take the piece of paper and then run to their next class, especially in middle school. And it's just cruel. It's like a cruel, sick joke for, like, a 12-year-old to have to manage all of this paper and manage all of these binders, and then they're so heavy, they're breaking their back. So this is what I like to do, and I also say to the kids, like, you can do whatever you want. Like, don't listen to the teachers. Like, these teachers have been handing out the same, supply list since, like, 99. Like, they're not really thinking that this is what needs to go. They don't need, like, all of these note cards. I'm like, are they kidding? Like, they need 7 packs of note cards. They don't need any of that. They really don't. So I like one binder. This is what I like. And kids will resist. I'm like, just trust me. No teacher is going to say, like, you need to have that. I'm like, your teacher will be happy if you're actually handing in your work. Hands down, like, trust me. You tell them you have your own organizational method, and aren't you happy that, like, I'm actually handing in my work instead of, like, not finding it in my 7 different binders. So I personally like one binder with a folder for each subject: math, science, history, language arts, Spanish. Then I like one folder at the beginning. It doesn't even need to go in the binder. I like one folder just to be like that homework folder. So, like, nothing should just be shoved into the backpack. Just one folder, and, that catch-all folder of, like, whatever homework, any handouts. That's just the one thing that's going to go into, like, a folder that's not even part of the binder system. That's just like a quick, throw it in there. Then that's like the homework folder, like the handing in, handing out. Then when they get home, they can do what they want with, if there's something that they're working on in science, they can put it in the science folder in that binder. If there's something that they're working on in, history, they can put it in that history section in the binder. Any homework that needs to be handed in just goes in that homework folder. If that's too complicated, at least just put it in the folder for that class. Sometimes that one extra folder gets complicated. Like, we want to make the system as easy as possible. So this is the good part though. So like there's the one binder. Then at home, you're gonna have a filing crate, like a plastic crate from Staples. And in that filing crate, you're gonna divide it up with hanging file folders, math, science, history, English, language arts. That's it. You don't even need the manila folders, like just the one folder. That's it. And when they're done with a subject, say they're studying, Crete or something in history. When they're done with Crete and they're moving on to Greece, you can take all of that stuff about Crete from their folders and put it into the social studies section of that binder, of that file crate. Usually the kids could just throw that stuff out because a lot of times they're never going to look at it again, but there's panic. Sometimes kids get nervous, they can't throw it out. Their teachers say they can, okay, we're not going to throw it out. It's just going to be at home in this bin so that it's not taking up room in your backpack. Does that make sense? Like it's there, and also the filing system is so simple, like just take it out and put it in there. Take it out from math, put it in there. Like, do not divide it up into like quizzes or tests or Crete, or just throw it in there because if they're ever going to need it, then they can look at the 10, 15, 20 pieces and find it in a minute. But we want the system to be as easy as possible for them to take it out and just put it in there. Like with kids, a lot of kids with ADD or just kids in general, the more steps you give them, the more difficult it is. So like, just take it out and throw it in there and just have one folder, like all of these binders and folders and dividers, like it's too much, it's too complicated, and it's not like they have time to do it. So make it as easy as possible. I mean, I understand wanting to save the stuff if your kids are in high school and they have exams. That makes sense. Usually in middle school they don't have finals, but they might want to save it anyway. Fine, they can just save it, but take it out of their book bag. And this is something I like to do once a week, like on Sunday nights. Sunday night, go through their book bags, go through their folders, make sure that anything that they're not doing is either thrown away, they don't need it. Like, you're really not going to look at math homework, in my opinion. Some people do, but if they want to save it, put it in the binder. If they don't want to save it, just throw it in the garbage. Like I'm not a fan of paper. I think it's clutters, it gets like overwhelming. The less thing their book bag should be just like super simple. Like open it up. They shouldn't have like all these miscellaneous papers like that. It just freaks you out, freaks them out. They don't know how to find anything. It's almost like, I say it's like being in Home Goods. Like you just get a headache, Like you just want things to be as simple as possible for them. So every paper needs a home, and I think that's it for the paper stuff. I was gonna say something else, now I can't remember, but any questions about the paper stuff? Does that make sense? Just get rid of it. Just make it as easy as possible. And honestly, if the teachers have a problem, they won't. Oh, I know what I was going to say. A lot of schools give these like big plan books. I don't like those either, which is a surprise probably, but they're so big and they take up so much room, and I really do not think that the kids are like opening up their plan book and filling out on the 15th, they're too big. I think that it's hard. I mean, unless, like I was the type of teacher that made sure that class didn't start until everybody wrote down their homework. Well, I was the only teacher that did that. I was the only teacher that did locker cleanouts. I was the only teacher that made sure that when we were done with the section that things would, we would get rid of them. That's sort of who I am. No other teachers do that. So knowing that most teachers aren't going to do that, they're not going to wait and let you, open up the plan book. So I don't really love those big plan books. I think that they're heavy and usually not used. I like for kids just to use like a little notepad, just a tiny little notepad that they can put at the front of their book bags and write down what the homework is. Like it doesn't have to be, I really don't like all of the steps that it takes, that they would have to take out their plan book, they would have to take out their binder and then open up the plan book and figure out the page. Like by the time they end up doing that, they're just, you know, the bell is rung and they're late for class and they're getting in trouble. So just give them a piece of paper, give them a little notebook where they can jot down what their homework is if they're not looking at it online. Like easy, simple, they'll know what that means. They'll know what like 20 to 30 odd means for math. Like, just make it simple for them. So that's my whole like paper stuff. Okay, last point, and then I'm gonna leave room for you guys to ask questions. Reward, reward, reward. That's like my biggest like thing that I can say. Like incentives to form good habits lead to good habits. So when kids were little, we would give them incentives for brushing their teeth every night and going to the bathroom on the potty and staying in their room all night. I mean, I was just, not just there, but like, I was there. We were all there. Like, you know, my kids got a prize every time they went on the potty. They don't get a prize for going on the potty anymore, you know? They know, you know, like there was a prize if they would brush their teeth every night, and now they brush their teeth every night. So it's this rewarding kids still works. If you have a kid that wants things, my kids want things. Most kids want things. So I find that rewarding them is a really good way to get habits going. I don't really reward for grades so much because, you know, they might not necessarily be able to get an A. So I'm not a big reward of the grades, but I do reward for them to make sure that they do their homework every night or write down their homework in their plan, you know, write down their homework every night or whatever it is, whatever skill you want them to learn, give them a reward. And like, it doesn't matter at the end because it's going to become part of who they are. Now, this is my example that I just used for my 14-year-old daughter. So she was involved in cheerleading. She was an extreme, and she did this like extreme cheerleading, and it was like the bane of my existence. It was like the worst thing that I've ever, I didn't like it, it was kind of trash. Besides that, we were traveling 14 weekends, it was insane. It was so much, you know, separated our whole family. I couldn't take it. I was like, I will do anything for this girl not to do cheerleading anymore. I can't. And she loved it. She was good. She was, you know, it was great. It was bad. It was horrible. It was just horrible. And she met kids that were much older and bad influences. It was bad all around. So I said, what if you did rowing? Such a nice sport, you know? It's nice sport. What if you did rowing? No. She's a big no. She's a no girl. No. What if we pay you to do rowing? How much? I don't know. It's 3 times a week. What about $15 a time? I mean, it's a lot of money for an 8th grader at the end of the week, but like, it's also not $10,000 to be cheerleading and going all over Dallas and what. Okay, so and it needed to be enough of a reward that she was going to do it. Well, she did it. She loves it. She's on the novice team now. We don't pay her anymore. It just was what we did. It's what I did to like get her to do it. And some people are like, no, it's not really kosher. I'm not going to pay my kids to do things. Well, I mean, I rewarded her to go on the potty. I rewarded her to brush her teeth. Like, it worked. How about that? Okay, it worked. She's not doing cheerleading anymore. Now she's rowing, and maybe she'll get a scholarship. I mean, who knows? You know, I don't know where it's going to lead. But like, sometimes you kind of need to reward them in order to build the habits that you want. I mean, I have a kid that I'm working with, and he really wants his own computer. Well, he never gets his homework in. You should see like on the, you know, online it says like, this homework's not in, this homework's in, all of this homework's not in. I'm like, he really wants a computer. You know, what if in this, you know, second semester, he gets his homework in every night, he cleans up all of those missing assignments, and, you know, he works for a computer. Well, he did it. He all of those assignments were done. You know, his parents checked and made sure that like he got his homework done every night, and he did get the computer, but the best part was that he realized that like nobody was angry with him anymore. The teachers weren't upset with him. His parents weren't upset with him. Like he realized that like everything went a lot more smoothly if he got his homework in, but it wasn't like the parents telling him to get his homework in. It was he was working for it. And I also say like, look, as adults we work and we're paid, so there's a similar, it's okay to be rewarded. And it doesn't have to be money. It's whatever it is that your kids like. I just believe I would prefer to reward than punish. I hate a lot, take the phone away, take this away. I try and make things positive. I think with kids, the more positive it is, the better. It might be the same exact outcome, like taking the phone away versus rewarding them, but like isn't a reward so much more satisfying and and it also like it's just better. I have really hard time with like punishing kids. So that's my whole thing, like rewarding for those behaviors. They are still, we think that they're old, that they're so old, but they're really not. I mean, they're like 5 or 6 years off from being potty trained. Like they're still young. Like this part of their brain doesn't fully develop till they're 25 years old. So like it's okay. We're still molding them. So we're going to mold them and try and reward them because a lot of kids just, there are kids that like right away, know what to do and they're super organized and like wasn't who I was and that's not who most of the kids that I work with are. Another thing is that you need to be careful with, like if your oldest kid is super organized, like it's really hard on the younger kid that's not. So birth order matters a lot. Like my oldest is the more difficult one. And my son just sort of does everything naturally. Well, it's so easy on him because I almost was expecting for him to be more difficult, like his sister. But I work with a lot of families that are like, my 2 daughters they're Harvard and Yale and they did everything, and then the son is not doing anything. I'm like, you can't compare them. Like I understand how you would want to be comparing because your daughters, but like every kid is different, so you have to really treat them differently. So. All right, I hope that was helpful, and I really would rather answer questions because I think that questions are even more helpful. So, yes.
Ask about your rewards. For these types of organizational rewards, how often would you pay them out? Would you do it each time? Would you let them accrue? How would you?
I like to do it each time because, like, sometimes with the accruing, they forget. Yeah. So, like, reward them. Like, if they, give it to them each time. I think that like I do think that there's something about like receiving that reward right away. So if they can, that would be better than, because it's that whole like out of sight, out of mind thing.
Yeah.
So the more instant that it happens, the better. Yeah, I really don't think that like in a month we're gonna go to Disney World. That's really not that's not gonna help. I mean, they're also like a lot of these kids are time challenged. So, I mean, part of like the whole executive function skills, like if they're lacking in executive function skills, that's time, they are time challenged. So saying you're going to get it in a few days doesn't mean much to them. So I would say like, look at that. You got all your homework done before 7 o'clock, here's the $10. And don't say you're going to get $10. Like actually give it to them. If it's a money thing, that they're working for.
So I have a question on procrastination.
Yeah.
So in my household there's a procrastination part because there's the ADD and then there's the executive function. So I'm trying to see if I could get any feedback on to help that procrastination part, right? We can get to this next part.
Right.
So maybe some tips.
So,
there.
I mean, maybe a reward for getting their homework done by a certain time.
Okay.
So that like it's not, don't leave it up to them.
Okay.
So I would say like, I mean, I was the biggest procrastinator. I still am. But I really was. I mean, I would be like, I'm going to do my homework in 15 minutes.
Right, and then that creates the anxiety, right?
Yes.
So it's just vicious, very vicious
Yes.
cycle that word.
So I would give them a reward
Okay.
for getting their homework done by 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So
That's
that
a good idea.
stops the procrastination because they're going to get a reward. There's not even a chance to get to procrastinate because that's what their reward is going to be.
And then do you
they're gonna start to
brainstorm
see.
the reward? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, is that what you've done in the past? Is been like,
Definitely.
What would be the currency that would kind of motivate you?
Yes.
Is that the question you're gonna ask?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because like I was working with a kid this week, an 8th grader, and the mom, and he was like, you know, I was like, well, what do you think? He's like, I don't know, $1. I'm like, $1? $1 a night? What are you gonna do with $7? I'm like, let's really, you know, let's reward. He's like, $10? I'm like, great, $10. Like, you can do something with $40 at the end of the week. I know that it's a lot of money, but at the end of the day, you need to incentivize them to then build up these habits, and you will see that it's going to make their lives much easier. At the end of the day, you're going to be spending money in another way, probably on that. Therapy.
Right.
Yeah, right? I mean,
Exactly.
like, give the, you
Because they're so
know.
anxious because they procrastinated for so
Absolutely.
long and no homework's done. So yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Sorry, this is personal. For how long did you pay your child?
Okay,
for
so
rowing?
I paid her for rowing for a year.
Oh,
For about a year, well, not a year, like we did it, you know, yeah, I would say a year.
and how did you stop doing
It just sort of stopped. It just stopped on its own. Like she just fell in love with it. Like maybe that's different, but it worked for us to be able to get her out of cheerleading and get her into another sport, and then it worked because like she was happy about getting the money because she wanted like whatever it was that she wanted. But then she started to really love the rowing. She started to love the program. And so she's even said like, I don't even want the money. I mean, I'll take it, but I don't even want the money. So, you know, it just depends on what kind of kid you have. But I'm always happy to do some kind, and it doesn't always have to be money either. It could be like, you know, working for, you know, look, my kids want money anyway. Like they usually get allowance, or like I do think it's not a bad idea for them to manage money somehow. I think that it's good for kids to manage money. So, you know, maybe instead of this kind of becomes in place of allowance, or, you know.
And then maybe set a time limit too. Like we're going to try this for a month.
Yeah.
And then we're going to come back and look at this again. Has this helped you?
Yeah,
Do we need to renegotiate this?
absolutely.
Isn't it not motivating you?
Right,
Right.
right.
Okay.
I love that it's like it's extrinsic.
Yes,
It turns intrinsic.
exactly. Exactly. I mean, it works for dogs. I mean, it works, you know, it's Pavlov. I mean, we are still molding these kids. Like, everyone's like, like, he's 12. He just started walking like 5 years ago. You know, like, we kind of forget that they haven't been on this earth for that long. You know, I mean, they give us attitude as if they've been on this earth for a long time, but they really, you know, they haven't been. So, like, we need to train them. We need to, like, I mean, when I was a teacher, I did the same thing. Like, this is so mean what I did, but it worked. So I would make sure, I wanted all of the homework. I wanted all of the class to hand in their homework. And I would say, if everybody gets in their homework, they get a star, and after 20 stars, we get a pizza party. Well, right around like 18, 19, like that pizza party was coming, there were like those few kids that never got their homework in, and I was like, and the whole class knew it. They were like, Johnny, you better get your homework in because we want to have a pizza party. I mean, it almost became like, you know,
A team.
it was like a team effort, and the kid, you know, those kids got their homework in because the rest of the class just really wanted that to happen. So, but again, it was a reward. I wasn't taking anything away from them. It was a reward, and then the whole class was like so psyched and like, okay, I had to spend money on a pizza party, and you know, we ended up not really doing much that day in the classroom, but like, I was so happy that like the whole class was getting in their homework. So, you know, it depends. I mean, I certainly don't want anybody going broke for this, and it might not be money. For me, for my kids, money is motivating, but for some kids, they like to like go to, you know, I have one kid that liked to go to Starbucks in the morning and get like a hot chocolate, you know, like it's so,
Like
It-
for a kid?
Yeah, I mean, it might not always be money. It might be, my daughter worked for, she really wanted Instagram, little things like that, like an app, you know? Because I was like, no, you can't have it, and then it was like, all right, you know, like, I mean, I kind of knew, like, that it was almost the right time that she was gonna be getting that, but it's like, okay, if you know, if you get all A's and B's, even B minuses, then you can get the, you know, you can have Instagram or Snapchat or whatever it was. So like, sometimes there's some things that like, maybe you were gonna let them have it anyway, but letting them think that they had some control over it
Yeah.
is a good idea.
Nice one.
Anything else? I think. What are your mornings like? Are mornings difficult? Like, do you find that that's something that's happens? Where like,
It's hard when you have a girl that changes her clothing 3 times.
don't don't let them. They have to pick out their outfit the night before.
She does.
Oh yeah.
And then it doesn't look good, the color doesn't go,
Yeah.
whatever.
How old is she?
13.
Yeah. Can reward her. You know, like, because is she like missing the bus, or it's turning into a whole?
I'm sorry?
Does she miss the bus, or is she late for school because
Oh, no,
she's?
you know, screaming, she gets to the bus stop, 2 minutes before.
Yeah. I mean, that's also something. I mean,
It's
that's
hard in the morning, it's very stressful.
right. That's also where, I mean, my daughter did the same thing. I'd be like, okay, you're picking out your clothing the night before. This is when she was a little bit younger, but it was like, and you may not change. Like, this is what you're wearing tomorrow. You will be, not punished, but like, maybe, something. You can get a reward if like, that's the outfit that you end up wearing. Like, they're very Pavlovian. You really can sort of, and then to say, it's a very important thing is like this whole like metacognition, like really talking about how smooth everything went, like letting them be aware of what happened, like later in the day. Like I think that's something that a lot of parents miss out on is talking through what went well. So like you could say to her, like you said to her, like, if you end up staying with the outfit that you are choosing at night, if you're gonna do that every day for a week, or you can get a reward at the end of the day, or whatever it is, like if you actually wear the outfit that you planned on the night before, and like, have her check Alexa what the weather's gonna be like it shouldn't be a surprise, if it's gonna be raining tomorrow, then, you kind of talk through that. And then maybe after a few days, you can say to her, like, it's really been so much more pleasant in the morning, don't you think? And hasn't it been nice to like get to the bus on time and without us yelling at each other, and doesn't it start your day off on the right foot? So really part of like all of this and being mindful of like what their schedule is like and trying to get them to do the right thing, you really can't miss that step of, aren't things easier now? Like, isn't it better? Isn't it so much easier that you can hand in your sheet because you can find it? Isn't it nicer that you're not carrying all that stuff around? So that's really an important piece that we as parents can do without doing it for them, but letting them come to the realization, like, yes, things are easier now that, like, I did study a little bit every night, or I did get my book bag packed up the night before, so mornings have been easier. So that's really what we can do as parents, is help them kind of realize that things are going more smoothly. Yeah.
What if when they're studying, they get a little stuck and then start to spin out of it? Like they think, oh, I'm writing this essay, doing okay, but then they're realizing there's so much more they need to do.
Yeah.
And then this part starts to kind of shut down a bit.
Well, that's why you have to really break it up. Like they should never be writing an essay.
Or just math, like knowing, okay, I've got this worksheet or two.
Yep.
How do you kind of help them to kind of get back to what they need to do and it not feeling, the anxiety built, like
Yeah.
how do you stop that spin cycle so
Yeah.
they can move on?
Take a break.
Yeah.
Take a break. So there's this timer called you don't even need this timer. I always say there's this timer called the Pomodoro timer, but you don't need that. Just a 20-minute timer. So basically there's been evidence that anybody can concentrate on anything for 20 minutes at a time. 20 minutes is the max. Some people can study and concentrate for longer, but most people can concentrate on something for 20 minutes. 20 minutes, and then the Pomodoro timer is 20 minutes on, 5-minute break. 20 minutes on, 5-minute break. There's something about taking that break that's really helpful for kids, and also knowing that there's a break that they can take is something that they can look forward to. I used to when I was little, my mom would put a bunch of M&Ms down for me, even though she didn't really help me that much. But she's after you're done with this math problem, you can have an M&M, just little tricks to kind of make it better. So maybe just saying why don't you work for 20 minutes and then take a 5-minute break? Or maybe he's spinning out of control with math and say you know what, let's take a break from math right now, and why don't you do your science instead?
Yeah, but he doesn't want me to tell him.
Yeah.
It's where, yeah.
So I would say,
Can you sign off on it after 20 minutes? I don't know what grade he's in.
He just doesn't want, and he just doesn't want help. He wants to do it all himself.
so that's the word. It's
He
hard.
doesn't-
It's
he just
hard
has to- he
seeing
just
them
has Yeah.
spinning.
Figure that out.
But I would really have him, so I like when kids kind of make a plan for themselves when they get home. So if spinning out of control would then prevent him from doing the rest of his work, it might be a good idea for him to know that and say, okay, I'm going to do science, history, language arts, and save math for last. If that might be something that you can talk to him about, if this is something that's going to mess up the rest of your studying time, why don't we save that for last so that you can get the other stuff out of the way first? Maybe something like that. And then I really think that the teachers will say to them that they only want them working for a certain amount of time and put on that timer. And if he's spending more than 20 minutes or 10 minutes on a math problem, have them write a note to the teacher. My kids are always writing notes to their teacher. I'm having trouble with this. I've worked on it for 20 minutes. Please, let's find a time to meet. And then, be done with it. It shouldn't overwhelm him. And if it does, and so you could talk to him about that. I'm sure that, it's better for him to talk to the teacher about it than for him to, spin out of control. That's what the teachers are there for. Something else I really work with kids with is being their own advocates, especially middle school and upper school. They're really, teachers do not want to hear it from the parents. My kid's really having a hard time, blah, blah, blah. The kids need to write the email themselves. It goes so far. It really does. Have the kid write that email. Dear so-and-so, can we please meet? I'm having a hard time. It goes so much. One of my parents wrote this letter. It was so long to the teacher. And the teacher wrote back, I kid you not, and I think that they made a mistake. Thank you so much. I got your insane letter.
Do you think they meant insightful? They didn't say.
It said insane. It said insane. And I was like, and that must have been a mistake. That was such a Freudian slip. But they sent it. Thank you for your insane letter. I swear to God. And I was like, oh my. She was like, this must have been a mistake. I'm like, oh, it must have been. I don't think she realized how insane the letter was. Because it was insane. And I was like, I'm like, do you have any idea how busy these teachers are? The last thing they want to read is a 5-paragraph essay about your kid, having a hard time. All that needed to happen was, the kids saying can we please meet? I'm having a hard time. It just goes so much further. So part of what you can really talk to your kids about is you reach out to the teacher. They cannot be scared to reach out to their teacher. They cannot be scared. Something else that can go down on the calendar is I like to write down in this notes section the teacher's office hours. So if your kid is having a hard time in math or science, write down on the side that like Mrs. So-and-so is there from, 7 to 7:30 on Tuesdays, or, and 7 to 7:30 on Thursdays, and say they have a test on Friday, and they're there on Thursday, like write down up there from 7 to 7:30, you guys are gonna go there early. All of that stuff needs to be written down. Every little thing needs, so that's a really good thing, like having the kids go in for those office hours goes such a long way. I was a teacher for 15 years, like we have a lot of flexibility in how we grade the kids. There just is. And a kid that comes in and is showing me that they are really concerned about their grades and, care, that's the kind of kid where I'd be like, all right, you can do a little extra credit, or like, all right, it's a 79, but we're gonna bump it up to an 80. There is wiggle room, but it's gotta be from the kids, not from the parents. So that's the thing, like what we can do to help them, we can make sure that the kids are the ones that reach out to meet. I mean, we can drive them there to make sure that they get there, but I think as parents, really good idea not to be writing the teachers so much. Look, we can also, as a parent, it's our job to kind of like work behind the scenes. It's not like that I don't ever reach out to my kids' teachers, because I do, about certain things. But in general, usually that's about like, those kids not being nice to another kid. Something where it's okay for the parents to work behind the scene. But when it comes to like grades, or if like the kids say that they're scared to talk to the parent, to talk to the teachers, like that's where you need to be like, these teachers are here to help you. And also like kill them with kindness. Kill them with, like the teachers that they don't like the most, like kill them with kindness. Bring them a muffin and a cup of coffee in the morning. They're not so scary, So being like, so I went to a private school, private all-girls school, 42 girls in my graduating class. I ended up going to the University of Wisconsin in Madison, huge, 50,000 kids. But I knew, because I went to this little private girls' school, that like I knew it wasn't intimidating for me to reach out to the professors, to go to the office hours, to go to the teaching assistants. Like it was just something that was like part of how I grew up. And so many kids didn't do that. But like I made this large school small for myself. A lot of these high schools are big, like, Staples is a big high school, and Weston, they're big, but like you really want to teach your kids to make the school small for themselves. So many kids, I know that teachers are sitting around in their office hours and nobody's there. So, make them go. It also will save money on like tutors, because there's like teachers that are there waiting to help them. So.
You did say in the beginning something about sending the kids, the tutoring part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Farming out or something.
Yes, farm it out.
Yeah.
So something that something that I'll do, and you can do it on your own, because I'm in Weston a little bit further, but I find college students to help with this organization, if you can find somebody. So, for example, if it's tough for you to be going over this calendar with your kids, and if it becomes a fight cleaning out their book bags, have a college student or a high school student go over this stuff with your kids, because it's something that needs to take place every week. They need to see their schedule, they need to see their time every week. They need to clean out their book bag every week. If it's going to be a fight with the parent, then farm that out. Like have somebody else do it with them. And also like maybe they can help them with math or social studies or whatever it is that they, if your kid already has say your kid already has a Spanish tutor, tell them to do this with them also. Say like, okay, in addition to, helping them with Spanish, can you please make sure that you fill out the calendar with them? I'm happy to help you find somebody. Like I have like a pool of tutors, but they're Sacred Heart, Fairfield University. They're a little bit closer to where I am. But I'm sure you can find that, or I'm happy to help you find that, but I do believe that if it's gonna be a battle with the parents, have an expert come in, or have a college student come in, or have a high school student come in, make sure that they're filling out that calendar and cleaning out their book bags once a week. It's really easy, it's kind of like, it's an easy thing for a college or a high school student to do with them, but it's not the parent. And it just goes by, it's much smoother for that to happen. So, just like, what's your schedule like this week? It might not even take that long, usually an hour, to fill out the calendar, to fill out, to look through the book bag, to kind of like figure out like, okay, breaking up a paper. There's a paper, this one kid that I was working with has 2 papers due on Friday, tomorrow. I'm like, I don't know how you're gonna get 2 papers done. That's a lot, and he has play practice until from 7 to 10 every night. I'm like, I don't know why you would, and in Stanford, so that's a whole other, I'm like, well, you're gonna have to write these papers this weekend. Like, you have no other, you're gonna have to write these papers this weekend. There's no other way. How could he possibly? So we talked about like, okay, let's at least do the introduction for both of these papers on, Saturday morning, and maybe, sometimes I like to do the introduction and the conclusion at one time, and then do the middle body paragraphs, because it actually keeps it more concise. You can switch it around a little bit, but like that kind of thing, like you need to help them like break up what they need to do, because they should never have to write the entire essay on a Thursday night, which is what I used to do.
What are your feelings on the time timer? Do you remember, what the time timer clock? Do you think that creates more anxiety?
That like visual timer? Well, a lot of these kids are, as I said, time challenged. Like they don't realize that time is moving. So I think if your kid does have like this executive function issue, that it's not a bad idea to be able to see. It's basically, do you know what? It's like a timer, and it's square, and there's a circle, and then like there's like a red thing that goes around. So like for a half hour, like you actually see the time start to go down. Start to,
I think
disappear.
I think you can put it on your phone now. I think they have.
Oh, sure.
I think you can download it on your phone. Why do I think this?
I like working within a
that's it.
20-minute time frame. Like when I go home tonight, I have to pack because I'm going to Nashville this weekend. And I hate packing. Like I hate it. I don't know why. It's so difficult for me. Like having to figure out, like my husband could just like pack in 3 seconds.
You want to know if you need 6 pairs of shoes.
It just takes
just
me
the shoes involved.
so long to pack. Well, I will set a 20-minute timer for myself. And I will focus for 20 minutes. And then, if like I haven't finished packing in 20 minutes, then I'll take a break. But like, for some reason, knowing that I've set that timer for myself, it like keeps me, it's like almost a game. It's like I have to do this within this 20 minutes.
I think that's actually probably really, really valuable, because if you're time boxing it, I think my kids will feel like they're in control. When I ask them to get things done, no, you can't do this and this until you get it done. They don't see that happening in 20 minutes.
Right.
But if I said, take the next 20 minutes, we're gonna do this until 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I bet you can get it done, because if you just break it up into this and this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be, I don't know why I'm just having this epiphany from that, but I'm actually thinking that will be very successful.
It's kind of fun. It's sort of like,
Because it's not intimidating. 20 minutes is not
20
intimidating.
minutes is a manageable
And I've just seen my
chunk.
daughter knock her room into sparkling clean in half an hour, so I'm sure 20 minutes would be enough for whatever we need,
Yeah, it's a manageable chunk. Because what happens is they look at homework and they think like what your son, like, oh, I can't do this. And then like their mind starts spinning, and I can't do it, and I can't do it. And they've just wasted 20 minutes thinking that they can't do it.
Right.
And sometimes and like also with these executive function issues, like task initiation is a problem. Like they don't know how to start. Well, the way to start is to start. And so, you know, saying to them like, you're only gonna do this for 20 minutes will help them get started. It's like me, like I don't wanna pack, but I can do it for 20 minutes. And then sometimes when I like to clean up, like I don't wanna clean my room or I don't wanna clean out my closet, I'm just gonna do it for 20 minutes. And then I just get on a roll. But it's called task initiation that kids with executive function issues have a problem with. But giving them like a small little, breaking it down into manageable pieces. Manageable, because then they start to they just start to spiral, and then all the time that they've spent spiraling, they could have been done already. You know, it's like worrying. My dad always said like, there's no point in worrying. I'm like, well, it's true. It's like, what does it accomplish? It just you just waste your energy worrying about something that might not even happen. So it's similar, like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, how am I going to do this, it's going to take me so long, I don't think I can do it, and then just 20 minutes do it, and then it happens. Same thing with like writing an essay, just do the introduction.
Right.
Just do 5 sentences, just do 2 sentences, just get it started. Because that, for some reason, with ADD, or with just this executive function part, it's weird, like they can't start it.
Right.
It's like the weirdest, like why can't you just start?
Yeah.
Because it becomes huge.
Right.
And that's why you
And
need
maybe
to
put your
break it
report
down.
in there, like be like, okay, once you do the 3 sentences,
Yeah,
just that whatever
Yeah.
whatever you contractually figured out,
yeah,
you get your your reward.
right. And then they're going to start rewarding themselves.
Right.
So like what happened to me when I was in college, and I told you like I was a mess, and then when I went to college, I was an honor student. I mean, I got all A's. And I would reward myself. I was like the wandering student, like because I really couldn't stay in one place for very long. I would start off at the library, and then like in an hour I would leave, and then I would go to like a coffee shop, and then I would have like a scone, like I would like reward myself, and maybe I would do like a little bit of work there, and then I would stay for an hour, and then I would go to like the student union. And then I would like work at a table there, and I would get like pretzel or something, and then I would like go upstairs. Like I was all over the campus because I couldn't just be in one place for that long, but I was like giving myself little rewards, little like food rewards to like get it. I mean, it worked, and probably it started when I was little because my mom would be like, just every time you do a math problem, you can have an M&M. Like it's like little rewards, and same thing with the kids. Like if kids have a hard time, another thing, like if kids have a hard time studying in their rooms, like have them go to the library. Like I personally think that like your bedroom should be a sanctuary. I don't really like when that becomes a place that they have to do their work. Like if they can get their homework done in the library, great. If you can bring them to like Starbucks in the evening, if you have time to like work on their paper, like my daughter, when she has a paper and like she doesn't want to and that scares her and it freaks her out, like let's go to Starbucks. Like I'm happy to read a book and you can sit with a hot chocolate. It makes her feel like a big shot because she's in Starbucks and she writes it there. So like getting them out of their, sometimes getting them into a different environment is helpful versus just like sitting in the kitchen, that same old kitchen, and hearing the clock tick,
See them. We're gonna be
Right, and that too, Like I have kids, like, and I'll say to the parents, like, drop them off at the library on Saturday morning. At least then maybe there aren't as many distractions at the library. Same thing with like the phone. That's a whole other topic, but like, if they cannot have their phones with them when they're doing their work, that's helpful too. But it's hard because I'm telling you to use a timer, and sometimes the timer's on the phone, I have to say I gave up the phone battle, and it was the best thing that I could have done for my relationship with my daughter. Now, it's not what I read about what you're supposed to do. It wasn't what I wanted to do, but it was the best thing that I could do for my relationship with my daughter, because she was freaking out that I was taking her phone away at night. She couldn't handle it. I mean, it was turning into such a huge issue that finally I was just like, I'm done. You know what? Like, have your phone in your room. I couldn't take it anymore. I mean, it was so unhealthy what was happening, and I was like hearing all of this stuff, like you're supposed to take it away and all of that stuff. You know what? She's getting all A's. She's rowing. She's not with like these trashy cheer kids. You know what I mean? Like everything is so much better right now. And the battles I was having over the phones, I mean, I'm not saying I'm like an expert, but like sometimes, you know, we hear that this is how it's supposed to be and it's not good for them and all of this stuff, but like the anxiety that it was giving this teenage girl to not have her phone at night was so much more overwhelming than what I was trying to do by taking it away. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm not the best person to, but sometimes you have to pick your battles. You have to pick your battles.
I also like this reward idea, like maybe catch while like it's going well to go by and give a little reward. Like think of it like a different way, like not to get, you know, but if it's actually going well. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, and then the chocolate milk kind of magically appears. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, this is like it's going really well. Like I'm so happy for you, and kind of reward like positive reinforcement that way too.
Yeah.
Like that maybe would be something else too.
Without
I'm just thinking.
knowing.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like
Level.
yeah, catching it in the act.
Another thing that's
Yeah.
really good to do that like I like to do is like my kids do like to work in the kitchen, and I'll watch the time. How are we? Are we overtime?
Yeah.
I have to pack. See, I'm procrastinating.
Do you want us to come home and help you pack? We'll do it in 20 minutes.
I don't know
Pretty
why.
cool.
It's like there's something on Friday and Saturday and Sunday and shoes, and it's gonna be raining. I don't know what to do. But something I like to do is like I like to kind of be around. Like my kids do like to work in the kitchen, and like I like to like bake. I mean, I'm not like the most not doing it that often, but like I do kind of like to be in the kitchen, like around when they're doing their work if I can, just to sort of, I'm not helping them, but I'm just like around. I'm like sort of noticing what they're doing. You know, the more like you cook in your house, the more like they all gravitate towards the kitchen. So little things like that, you know, even just throw in like easy baked
Pillsbury.
yes, just sort of like easy baked brownies. I don't know, it smells good, and then that's a reward at the end. So,
Okay.
all right.
So good food for thought.
Good,
For
good.
sure.
Well, can you tell I work for food? I really, you know, I exercise for food now. I'm very, you know, I always have to reward myself. Well,
Thank you, Stacy.
you're so welcome. I hope that was helpful.
Yes, thank you.
You're so welcome. And
Wonderful
I can leave
ideas.
my card if anybody has any like questions. I'm always happy to, you know, answer or come and, you know, I go to people's homes and really see what's going on there to like their study spaces and what's going on. I'm happy to do that. So.
Wonderful to know. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
You're
much.
welcome.